If you've been sitting all day, I want to show you a few exercises you guys can do before your workout and after your workout to make sure you're starting to correct some of the sitting problems that we get. Hey crew, Coach Josh here with GarageGangGyms.com, and today I'm going to talk you through exactly how I design my online training clients' warm-ups so that after sitting all day at work and they go to the gym, they know exactly what they can do in their warm-up so that it helps to fix their body and correct a few things from sitting all day so that they don't have back pain when they're doing squats, they don't have shoulder pain when they're doing push-ups or whatever it is that I have them doing. And then also exercises at the end of their workout that I have them do to exhaustion to make sure that even though they've been sitting all day, we're giving them the best chance so that tomorrow or the next day, their back isn't stiff after sitting. Okay, so you guys have just been sitting all day, so let's cut to the chase, your warm-up. Now, the most important thing about your warm-up is that you feel like this isn't just some lame thing that you're doing because you were told to do it and okay, I don't really get the point. What I want your warm-up to feel like is not only to get you warm, but to actually feel like it is part of your workout, but not so intense that it's actually gonna pull away from the exercises that you're gonna do. That's why of all these exercises I'm about to walk you through, I want you to pick 2, maybe 3 of them at the start of your workout, and I want you to cycle through these, okay? So you don't have to do the same 2 or the same 3 exercises, because if you have the same warm-up all the time, it gets really boring. But what I do recommend is, let's say every Monday you go to the gym and you do squats, maybe for 4 to 6 weeks in a row, you do the same 2 or 3 exercises for your squats. That way you can predict, is this actually helping me or is this hurting me? And then throughout your week, you're changing up those exercises. So on your pulling day, your upper days, they're different so that, again, you're not getting bored. Now, these warm-ups, after you've done maybe 3 to 5 minutes of cardio, okay, and then after you've done that cardio, you've now figured out which of these next exercises I'm about to show you are you going to do. So again, these are meant to not only prepare your body for the workout that you're going to do, but also help counteract the fact that you've been sitting all day. What does sitting all day do to us? It slumps our shoulders over and it has us stick our butts out. The Donald Duck syndrome, something that we're trying to avoid. So a lot of these exercises, more so for your hips, are going to be to try to bring your hips back under you so that when you're doing squats, lunges, things like that, you're not sticking your butt out and then pulling hamstrings and things like that. So to keep today's video brief, we're gonna talk just about lower body stuff. And if you're not doing lower body days and you sit all day, you really need to. In fact, I'd rather see you guys do, 2 leg days and then just 1 upper day a week if you guys are doing 3 days a week. Granted, you could do total bodies every day, of course, but you gotta work those legs because you're just sitting being stagnant all day. So let's walk you through some of these exercises. I'm just gonna appear in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and you're gonna see me demonstrating these exercises while I talk you through them. And the first thing is some type of a leg curl exercise. So you see me here, I'm doing a lying leg curl. Now what you'll see me doing is before I even start bending my knees, I'm gonna push my hips toward the pad. What this is gonna help me do is keep my butt somewhat tight because again, after sitting all day, the tendency is for you to stick your butt out. And not that we're trying to bring our hips too far under, but we wanna push our hips forward as I pull against this arm so that my hamstrings turn on. I'm gonna contract in, nice and slow, controlled, and then on the way down, especially I'm gonna go slow because it's gonna help me stretch, it's gonna help give me good butt and body hip control. And that way when you're doing squats, lunges, things like that, you too can be set in the right spot. I might do anywhere from 10 to 12 reps with a really light weight, and then I'll move on to the next exercise. And in this combo, it's going to be, again, I'm thinking you're doing squats or lunges, we're gonna do a squat with a thoracic extension. So you'll see me put my hands behind my head. I'm going to take a breath, lift my chest up nice and high. I'm gonna squat on down. Then while holding that squat, so I'm opening my hips, opening my knees, things like that, I'm gonna drop my chest down, take a big breath at the bottom, lift my chest nice and tall, keeping that good posture, and then I'll push against the floor and stand up. Then I'm gonna repeat this anywhere from 5 to 8 times. Now, doing these 2 exercises will be a great warm-up. If you do this 2 to 3 rounds and you're doing, again, 8 to 12 on the leg curls, maybe 5 to 8 squats when you're doing the thoracic extensions, great, you can move on to squats. Now let's talk about if you do a deadlift type day. So even though it's not really a deadlift move, I really like having my clients do lunges. Why? It's gonna make those ankles move, bend those knees, get those hips moving, get your butt stretching, and it's, again, a great way to warm up and feel like you're actually doing something. Now, as you're doing these lunges, you may pause at the bottom of your lunge, you might do all of your lunges on one side, then switch, and again, maybe we're doing 8, 10 repetitions per side before we move on to these kickstand RDLs. Okay, so these kickstand RDLs, the reason I really like doing one leg at a time, first of all, is I get more burn going on. I can really focus on one leg at a time. And it's really important that you do put your foot up on something. Now, I've done yoga for years and I can balance and put my foot in the air, and that's fine. But what I want you guys to do is feel a good stretch, to feel those hips, those hamstrings, and honestly, putting your foot up on that pad and keeping your body weight over your leg is ideal. Honestly, I love this exercise so much because I can, again, focus on that one side. So I'm bending in that knee, I'm tipping over, really stretching the back of my leg as much as I can, and then I'm standing up, keeping my body weight over that foot as I stand up. And this I'll do 8 per side. This gets my feet burning a little bit, but really it locks me in so that when I'm pulling something up off the floor, my quads are ready because of the lunges and my hips, and my hamstrings and lower back are ready because of the single leg RDL. All at the same time, we're trying to fix ourselves because, again, single leg RDLs and lunges, those are tough. And after sitting all day long, this can be a great way to, again, get those hips moving forward and back and working independently. Now, let's say you're doing a more dynamic day. Maybe you're doing some sprints, maybe you're doing some walking lunges, maybe you're doing some box jumps, burpees, mountain climbers, something that there's a little bit more speed involved. Then we want our warm-up to kind of look like that. We want that speed to be involved. And that's why I really like this first one. This first exercise, I'm borrowing this from an old video series I used to do, P90X, because I love it. And I did that back in 2011, and here I am 10 years later, more than 10, doing them still, because these leg sweeps or these leg swings, whatever you want to call it, they're really easy to do. You can do them at home or at the gym. And again, they just get your hips moving in different directions, and you're adding this dynamic movement to your body. Because again, if you're going to be doing jumps, just doing squats really isn't going to help us out with that. And then as I'm doing this, I'm working on my balance, kicking, trying to keep my legs straight the whole time. I'm thinking about, do my hips feel okay? Do I need to maybe do some extra? But I'll do anywhere from 10 to 15 repetitions before moving on to the Jefferson curls. Now, the reason I picked the Jefferson curl is because I want to get you over the thought that bending in your back or rounding in your back is the worst thing possible. On your deadlift day, maybe you're really trying to focus on keeping that back flat as much as possible. But in reality, when we're picking things up in real life, because not everything is perfectly balanced like a barbell, we tend to be rounded. If we're picking up a couch, if we're picking up a bag of salt, whatever, we tend to be rounded. So I like doing some moderately weighted Jefferson curls where I'm purposefully rounding over. I'm basically doing an RDL here, so I'm pushing my hips back, my knees are going back. I'm getting a really good stretch in my hamstrings, but I'm doing so while my back is rounded. The most important part of this exercise is I set my spine first, then I start to tip over. I come up through my legs, and then I start to move my spine. I do not want your legs in a stretched position while you're starting the curl. I want you to set that spine position, tip over into your hamstring, or your RDL rather, come back up, then come back into a good standing posture. And depending upon the weights you're using, and I'm not expecting you to do 1,000,000 pounds or 1,000,000 reps, maybe 10 repetitions at a time, nice slow 3 count on the way down, come up at a 3 count, take some time. This is teaching you how to control every vertebrae, right? And we're going through these dynamic positions because if you're doing burpees, if you're doing jumps, if you're doing mountain climbers, what happens? As you get tired, you start to drop your shoulders, and I just want to make sure you are aware that that's happening when you're doing those exercises. Okay, so those are 3 different scenarios using 2 exercises. Again, you're going to do 2 to 3 rounds, repetitions to get yourself burning anywhere from 5 to 20, depending upon the move you're doing. And again, for a squat day, you do something that's squat related. For a deadlift day, you do deadlift related stuff, and dynamic day, you do dynamic stuff. Same goes for your fix-it. Now, the way I like to program these fix-it type exercises, or you fix your shit type exercises, is again, this happens at the end of your workout, and this is something that you really need to make sure you're paying attention to and tracking. Now, I want you to go to near maximum repetition. So let's say this isn't one of the moves, but let's say it's push-ups. If as you're doing your push-ups, you think, oh yeah, I could do 15, okay, do 13, do 14. Don't actually max out, but get close, okay? And track that to yourself. Mostly it keeps you honest. If last week, you did 12 and it started to burn, and this week you stop at 10 because, it's burning, it keeps you honest because you're like, well, I did 12 last week, I should at least do 12 this week. But if all of a sudden you go from doing 12 of something to 15 to 20 to 25, it might be time to make it a little bit more challenging or add in a tempo or change the movement out entirely. But again, going along with our idea of we have a squat day, a pulling day with our lower body, your deadlift RDL type day, and or a dynamic day, that's also how I would like you to treat your corrective exercises at the end. Okay, so squat day, we're bringing back those leg curls. Now, whether you're doing it with a stability ball or a machine, depending upon if you're at home or at a gym, this is something I want you to pick a moderate intensity. So let's say if even in your workout, you had leg curls programmed. Great, maybe you're doing 8s, 10s, 12s, whatever, and you were using whatever, 100 pounds, 70 pounds, who cares? A number. In your burnout, I want you to do more repetitions, less weight, and I want you to really own those reps because this is not just more hamstring work to just do more hamstring work. This is, I sat for 8 hours today. I'm gonna do 12 to 20 reps with a moderate weight and go really slow and put some volume into those hamstrings. This is not junk volume, we're doing it with a purpose so that it kind of helps counteract the fact I literally sat on a dead ass all day long. So again, you're gonna do this 12, 15, 20 times, less weight than maybe you were doing in your workout, and get a good burn going. Not that I want quivering or shaking or death, but I want it to be really tough. I want a really good burn going. And then to pair that together, I really like switching into some type of a hip thrust. Now, I'm not saying get a barbell out, put a pad on it and thrust. No. I want slow, controlled hip thrusts. Ideally, you would do single leg stuff. That way you can focus on one glute at a time. But I totally get that. That is a really tough move to do, especially if you look at the way I'm doing the two-legged hip thrusts, is I want at the bottom for your hips to move first and then they rise up. Then you'll come down, they'll swing back, tuck under, up. Why? Because we stand with our hips tucked or stuck out. I want you to control being able to pull those hips under and lift up through so that your hips can go through their full range of motion. And ideally in the future, you could advance this by doing single leg bridges. But again, I still expect your hip to tuck and to go up, and that other leg isn't really doing a whole lot. It's kind of just sitting out there so that you don't fall. And again, I want you to do those to near maximum. So with hip thrusts, let's say, I don't really want you using weight. Maybe you have to do 15 to get your butt burning. Great, okay, that's fine. Let's put some time under tension into those glutes and really draw your attention. Because oftentimes when we're doing these exercises at the end, because you're tired, you'll put on weight and you're so tired that you don't even really care how those repetitions are going or how they look or how they feel, and you end up using your lower back, which defeats the whole purpose of doing this. So that's why you really only need to do 2 challenging sets at the end of your workout, and maybe after 3 or 4 weeks, then you add in that 3rd round. I don't want you to be completely obliterated so that tomorrow, your butt grew 6 inches. That's not the point of this, right? It's over time, we're trying to fix the fact that you're sitting all the time, which ideally you wouldn't sit all the time, but here we are. Okay, so on your deadlift day, because we always are thinking, I want to train my core, I want to do abs, I want to do whatever. So on deadlift day, I really like to do isometric type holds and or specific to lower back exercises. So the specific to lower back exercise we're going to do is a back extension, just a simple 45-degree back extension. You're going to try to keep your body extended. You're going to tip at the hips as you stretch those hamstrings, trying to keep your back nice and straight, and then drive through your hips until your back just starts to arch, right? We don't necessarily have to stop perfect, but some people tend to go way too far and hyperextend their back, which this machine is called the hyperextension machine, but that's beyond the point. So again, what I want this to feel like is as if you're doing a really good RDL. You have that nice flat back, you're pivoting at the hips, your hamstrings are stretching, and your hamstrings and glutes are what helps bring you up. And your lower back, rather than being the thing that moves your body, can be something that is just holding isometrically as everything else is pivoting around it, which really helps out in teaching you how to better deadlift, right? Because in deadlifts, we do want to stay relatively flat or at least in the same spinal position the whole time. And in order to do that, our lower back has to hold its position so that the rest of our body can do the moving and do the lifting, right? So this back extension is a great way to really isolate on that and get really good at it. But it's also good at pumping up your butt, stretching your hamstrings, making sure your lower back understands its job when you're bending over. Because something that happens a lot of times when people sit all day long, if you throw out your back, if you haven't this year, it may happen. I hope it doesn't, but it could. Because sitting all day makes us super stiff. And then we go to bend over, and where do we bend? Usually at the lower back, not at the hips, because our hamstrings are so screwed up from sitting all day that bang goes our lower back. So this is just kind of help greasing that groove. And at the end of the workout, you're going to feel really good about it. So then what I like to do from here is just flip over and do what I've coined a reverse plank. I really don't know what else to call it. But what I'm trying to do is tuck my hips under so that my glutes are squeezed, and then slightly lean back, keeping my chest up a bit, not completely hyperextending because then I'd lose my glute engagement. But you can see in the video I'm actually quivering because I'm forcing my core to pull my hips under and lock in tight, right? So that instead of it being tucked out the other way, I'm trying to pull it in the forward or posterior tilt so that it's clenched, so I have control over that. Because as we're squatting, as we're deadlifting and getting better at our lifting, if let's say you start to experience some back pain, so again, I would do maybe 8, 10, 12 back extensions, something you can add weight to in the future if you really want to, but keep in mind, this is meant to not only help fix your body, but give you more body awareness and just spend more time making your hips do their thing correctly. It's less about trying to strengthen your lower back, okay? It's more about strengthening how you feel and how you can move yourself. So, 8, 10, 12 reps. If, let's say 8, 10, 12 reps going fast is easy, slow it down. Once that becomes easy, fine, we can talk about putting some weights in your hands. But for a long time, that's not even necessary. And then with your reverse plank, we add time. Maybe we add a little bit of extension to our body, right? We lean back just a little bit more. Just keep in mind, the further you go, there's a lot more pressure on your core. Please be careful, because if your core turns off, you're going to overarch. Now your lower back is angry at you, and I don't want that to happen, okay? But yes, in the far distant future, and I mean far, we're talking years of practice with this, yes, you could hold a small dumbbell, a small plate, something like that, and add some weight to this exercise. But again, you're only doing this 2 times, 2 times through, going back and forth between the moves. Maybe in 3-4 weeks, you're doing it 3 times through. And then finally, your dynamic day. So typically on these dynamic days, again, you're doing jumps, you're doing lunges, you're doing all kinds of things. And a great way to kind of finish that workout off is controlled calf stretching. But it's more specific to your ankles, okay? So this isn't really related to sitting very much, but so many people are plagued with extremely stiff ankles that when it comes to squatting, when it comes to lunging, their knees hurt, their backs hurt. Why? Because their ankle isn't doing enough bending. So I love to put the ball of my foot on maybe a stair, a curb, or on the ledge that you see me doing with my GHD, and really stretching down into it and coming up. Now, just like we talked about with our 2-legged hip thrusts earlier, we can do the same thing with your calf raises. Once you get really good at doing 2-legged calf raises, most people think, oh, I should just add weight. I would prefer you just switch to doing 1 leg at a time. It does make it, 60% harder. It's more than half, right? It's more than double, rather. It makes it much, much harder, but it gives you that focus of each leg doing it. And then as you get really good at it, you'll start to realize, oh, my arch does a lot when I'm in this position. Oh, that makes sense when I'm lunging, why my heel comes up. It's not just my ankle, it's the fact that my foot stays really tight and I need to get comfortable flattening it. It's going to teach you things that you would have never learned in the past. And lastly, my favorite, QL raise. You set up your back extension machine, you split your legs, you're gonna side bend and come back up, side bend, come back up. I really like to go slow into that side bend and come up. And why? In life, we have a tendency to carry bags on one side or hold a kid on one side, whatever it is, and it tends to cause us to lean one way, twist one way, favor one side. And this is just a really good way of helping to kind of fix a few things in your hips. Go really easy, go really slow. These can be very challenging for people. And that down hand, you could certainly add in a dumbbell too. But if as you're doing these, your lower back starts to hurt, you may have done too many. You might only be able to do 6 repetitions at a time. You might not be able to do more than 3 repetitions at a time. This is something I want you to build into. We don't need to rush to get to 15, but we do want to start giving ourselves some good control over our spinal bending side to side, right? And if the cue all raises just aren't working for you, please go into a side plank. You can just get a similar bend going on. It's more of an isometric, less of a dynamic thing. It's totally fine. It's a great way to finish out your workout as well. So there you go, guys. If you sit all day, I highly recommend you do some of the warm-up exercises I was talking about. You can change the combo all you want. I just gave you 6 ideas, right? And after those workouts, I want you guys to do something that pushes your ability to do certain movements, right? It's not so much about getting stronger, but it's more about learning how to kind of fix your body, and when your body's out of position, how to get back into position. That's what we're really trying to do with those last 6 exercises. So if you guys need help, please, I've made a private Facebook group. It's open to anybody. You just have to ask to join it. We can put you in. There's a link in the description below so that you guys can join that. If you have questions about these warm-ups, these burnouts at the end, or maybe you're having some issues with your squat form, your deadlift form, whatever, please put it there. That's where I want to help all of my YouTube subscribers, and anybody who's wanting some help with that, it's going to happen there on the Facebook group. Again, this is Coach Josh with GarageGangGyms.com. I'll see you guys next time.